What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about the Winnipeg Jets and the trade deadline once again. Obviously things have changed though. Unless you've been living under a rock, I'm sure you've heard about the Mikko Rantanen trade, to Carolina. Of course, they get Jack Drury and Martin Necas in return, and that is a big move, and it's especially big for the Central because as much as I love Martin Necas, I've talked about him before here on the channel, like how much I love that guy as a player. He's not Mikko Rantanen. The Central got worse, right? The Avalanche got worse. Then Dallas turned around and they traded a lot for Mikael Granlund and Cody Ceci, two players that I was really scared that the Jets would go after, and they just wasted a lot of, their assets going after players that I think are kind of non-factors. Do I think Granlund's going to be an okay player in Dallas? Yes, but they could have shot a lot higher, in my opinion. I think Dallas could have done some more damage. I understand, they didn't have as much cap as they thought they would have, but now the door is wide open for the Winnipeg Jets to make a splash. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, a top 20 player or anything like that. That's not going to happen. But if they add a couple quality players here, they're looking really dangerous heading into the playoffs. So in this video, I'm going to be bringing up three guys that I think the Jets should be targeting, could be looking at, and who I think could be impacting the lineup pretty strongly. So without further ado, let's start off with number one. Number one on the list, Jared McCann, listed at 6'1", 190. He's played 55 games this year for the Seattle Kraken, put up 42 points. He's an excellent top six player. You can play him at center or wing, probably more of a winger, but this would be a big impact move for the Jets for a lot of reasons, and I'm going to get into that now. First of all, he brings some speed. The Kraken are a team that play with pace. They are extremely aggressive, but just not a very good team, to be totally honest with you. I think if you plug McCann into the Jet system, he could be dangerous, and not only that, but he does have term on his contract, which makes him a lot more attractive. I firmly believe the Jets are looking for a guy with term, and McCann definitely fits the bill here. Year 3 of 5 on his deal at only $5 million, as his cap hit, and with the cap going up, a crazy amount over the next 3 years. $5 million really isn't anything for a top 6 forward. And if you have McCann running around out there with the speed that he has, he would be a great fill-in for now into the top 6 and for next year, especially if the Jets are going to lose a guy likely like Nikolai Ehlers, right? So Jared McCann would be a good, guy to slot into the top 6, especially if Ehlers is leaving next season. There is a strong possibility about that. Talk about that in a different video. But Jared McCann would fit in very nicely as an offensive-minded top 6 player. Not exactly small either at 6'1", 190. Not a massive guy or anything, but, definitely not short. He would be a big guy to get for the Jets. It would be expensive, I definitely know that, but this is the kind of guy where you could unload, maybe 2 first-round picks for, right? And I don't think that's a stretch by any means. That would be a big pickup for the Jets. Next up on the list here, I've got Carson Soucy from the Vancouver Canucks, left-hand shot defenseman. Carson Soucy isn't the most, exciting name ever, but he's a guy that I can definitely see the Jets going after. Definitely fits the mold. Vancouver obviously has made some moves on, their back end, and therefore pushing Soucy out of a spot. 6'5", 210, not an offensive defenseman really by any means, but he is more than capable of, moving the puck, just being tough, being, a shutdown guy. And I think if he plays with a guy like Colin Miller, I think that's a really nice bottom pairing, a very underrated bottom pairing at that. Miller's got that big shot, Soucy's more defensive-minded, and that's perfect. That's what they need. That's the kind of guy they're going to be looking at, and I expect the Jets to be investing a lot of their assets at the forward position. Maybe defense, they don't spend as much. I don't think Soucy would cost a ton really either. I think, again, he's going to have a bigger market, but I don't think it's going to be, more than a third-round pick for him. I think this is a very gettable player for Winnipeg. And he has some term, $3.25 million for this season and next season. He will be a UFA after next year. It's not a big cap hit. Just kind of depends what the Jets, feel comfortable with, if they'd rather a rental on the back end. But I do think if, they don't mind getting a guy with term, I think Carson Soucy is a fine, cheap add to the bottom pairing, and one that's much needed. So if they could go get a Carson Soucy and push out Logan Stanley, I think that's more than worth it, right? So we'll see what happens, but Carson Soucy could definitely be on the Jets' radar. And last but not least, we've got winger for the Vancouver Canucks, Brock Boeser. Boeser is another one of those really good offensive weapons to have in your top 6 to put on the wing. 34 points in 46 games this season, 6'1", 208, 27 years old, will be 28 at the end of February. And this is a guy that the Jets have really liked in the past. It's really no secret that they had a big draft crush on him at the time, you know, in the 2015 draft. However, there was a certain guy named Kyle Connor that ended up falling on to the Jets, and, you know, the Jets can't not take Kyle Connor at that point, so they took him. Boeser went a little bit later on in the draft at 23 to Vancouver, and he's been a very good player, played his entire career there. Last year, Boeser put up 40 goals and put up 73 points in just 81 games, so he is definitely, you know, a high caliber offensive weapon and definitely a big impact player that I've been saying the Jets have been needing for a long time now. So if they add that guy to the top 6, you know, watch out. Now, Boeser is a UFA. Now, why would Vancouver want to trade this guy? You know, they already made some moves to rehaul their roster. It seems like they're going for that last playoff position. I don't really know, but it sure sounds like, you know, they prefer to move him. We'll see what that means, you know, going forward, if things kind of, you know, ramp up on him or ramp down now because of the JT Miller trade. But if Boeser, being a UFA, is a guy they don't feel confident, you know, being able to re-sign next year, and Calgary kind of takes over and wins that last wildcard spot in the West, I could definitely see Brock Boeser being on the trade block and being moved before the trade deadline. And, you know, as a UFA, you know, we'll see what the price is for him. I think he's going to be, you know, an expensive player to add, but maybe one the Jets could retain. You know, he's from Minnesota. A lot of other guys from Minnesota, like Neil Pionk, you know, Dylan Sandberg. It's not, you know, unthinkable to think that Brock would sign long term. I think he'd be a good replacement for Nick Ehlers. If Ehlers does end up walking this year, I mean, they could choose between the two. I don't know, but this is definitely the year to throw everything out there. You know, there really isn't anybody leading the pack this year in the entire NHL, like, unless you want to, you know, say the Jets are. Everybody is kind of at the same level this year. Nobody is pulling away from each other. This is the year to go all in for the Jets, and, you know, Brock Boeser would definitely fit the bill there. I really hope we see the Jets swing big, especially at forward. But that's all I got today, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, leave a comment down below what you guys thought about the video and, you know, some of the guys that I said, you know, I think the Jets should be looking at. I want to hear from you down below if you think those are good ideas, bad ideas. Who would you want? I want to hear it down below. But with all that said, leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next one with more Jets content. Go Jets, go. Bye-bye.